Validation of the live.
Give Twitch a couple seconds. Yeah, we should be good. Oh yeah. Good.
I see myself looking down at it too. Yeah.
Let me go shut this door.
Okay. Like I said, we got a few minutes, but we're live, so that's all that really matters. You know, we just wanted to be live ahead of time.
Maybe we can hit 100 followers on Twitch.
Hey, dude, it'll help.
We're like 33 away.
I'm actually pulling Tiger Lake up because no, you know what I think is hilarious though, and I know I'm speaking about stuff that we're going to be talking about ahead of time, though, is literally the Tiger Lake H product brief. You have that up. It's going to make you laugh when you look at page 2 and as to what we've been talking about.
Okay.
Yeah. Desktop performance made mobile. I mean,
that's perfect.
Their own briefing is calling out. I will say this, and this is kind of funny to me. But talking to the guys yesterday about it, they were so intrigued by my concept. When I even asked them, I was like, so why did Rocket Lake even launch when Tiger Lake H was coming right behind it and really was basically achieving the same performance numbers on mobile? Yep, I just got my notification too that it's live. I mean, I think it's hilarious though. Because I'm gonna go back over here and pull up my compare conversation.
Oh, one thing we might want to do. Well, I don't know. We have background music on the main for the mainstreams, but I don't know. That's
the background music.
Well, what's it for? It's for when Connor's doing cable management and there's no talking and it's just dead quiet.
Oh, I mean, I can play background music if you want me to.
It just has to be copyright free.
That's my problem. I can play stuff that I have the copyright to, but I'm gonna copy this. I'm gonna go here, paste.
Oh. So Facebook won't let me do not your typical IT guys with IT in all caps. They have suggested not your typical IT guys with only the I capitalized. So not your typical it guys.
You could do I.T.
Like I asterisk.
No, like I period dot I period T period.
Got it.
Right, like period. The actual way IT is really abbreviated. That we don't do.
Nobody does that.
I mean, we just made it because the whole reason ours is not that way is because that's the way the website is. Well, it is 6:31 now, so I guess we could technically break into this.
Probably should start.
Yep. So, Hello. I know we started a little early. We're going to keep going a little longer probably than usual because this is actually a half episode. This is not a regularly planned episode, although we may start getting into more of these mid-month episodes as we go. We've got a little bit of the reason that this even came up, guys, and we kind of wanted to cover it all and make sure you guys are aware of things as new things come available. This episode's title is really Intel, and ultimately it comes down to we found out and saw that they launched after the last episode. Tiger Lake H came out from Intel for mobile workstations and laptops, and the H series is really what they consider like their high-powered mobile series. So you have like your U and your Y for your ultrabook, and then ultra low power being Y. But we wanted to cover this Tiger Lake H release because really Tiger Lake H, and even in Intel product briefs, is basically a desktop chip in a laptop at 30% less power draw, and sometimes even half. So I'm Brad Medlin. He's Chris Touchberry. We are not your typical IT guys, and we're going to get into it today. We're going to have a lovely, fun conversation. So, Chris, if you kind of want to go over a little bit more about what else we're going to cover, just because there is going to be a lot of stuff in this. It's not just going to be Tiger Lake H. There were some other things, and then we'll get into the nitty gritty.
So we have a small subset on the integrated graphics in Tiger Lake being better than Rocket Lake. We're going to be covering Ice Lake Xeon. That's a new thing. It's currently out. It's new. Nvidia launching light hash rate video cards. How these products affect workstations in 2021 H2 or the second half of 2021. And then our normal work tech and IT support.
Awesome sauce. So I saw, and the whole reason me and Chris even brought this up was I saw as early last week, Intel announced through Dell, I guess. Dell kind of took the lid off of it all for us. But Dell announced that they are going to be having new mobile precision workstation lines coming out featuring Tiger Lake. And I said to myself, okay, 11th gen. Well, they said 11th gen. They didn't even mention Tiger Lake by name. And I, of course, got extremely curious about that. So Chris and I kind of got together and started talking about it, and then realized that, all right, Intel launched Rocket Lake in March, and it's now kind of getting into the hands of everybody. And now they're releasing Tiger Lake H, which realistically is better than Rocket Lake in a lot of scenarios. Some of the links to these things that we can provide in the YouTube page for the actual YouTube link to things are basically some comparison tools of Intel's own ARC page. So if you ever go to arc.intel.com, you can kind of check out and see the architectures that Intel has. You can also look at through some of their chip designs, what their chip products are, what their specs are, and compare them. So to kind of really and truly get into this discussion today, I'm actually just going to go back to their ARC page. I'm comparing a i9 11980HK to Intel's own Core i9 11900K. So Rocket Lake desktop to the mobile H chip, which is also unlocked, the 11980HK.
Oh, that didn't help. I tried to put a link in chat on Twitch, and it didn't do the full comparison.
That's okay. Yeah, it really is. And if you just wanted to link them to the ARC page, that's a great way for them to find it.
Yeah.
The arc.intel.com. But what's hilarious to me, and I just realized this too, the recommended customer price. I didn't even notice that before. Recommended customer price, though, the 11980HK, the actual, newest product that they're talking about, the 8-core part, $40 cheaper, $40 to $50 cheaper than Rocket Lake. Like, wow. Like, I things like you and I have been talking about all the like internal specs and everything the other day, and going through that kind of stuff. Holy cow, man, that's really big. Like it's actually cheaper to buy. And granted, it's in a laptop, guys. So you have to recognize things in a laptop aren't always going to be the most special. But both of them, to give you the similarities, so both of them are 8-core parts. Intel, as you remember, the 11900 did regress. So Intel's newest Core i9 is still an 8-core part. The Ice Lake part, or not Ice Lake, I keep wanting to call it that. The Tiger Lake H part is also an 8-core part. So they are like for like this generation. The mobile 10980HK did have 2 fewer cores than the 10900K. So, I mean, there was a difference between the 10900 and the 10980. That's, just something to keep in the back of your minds, guys. But the 10900, the 11980HK, the Ice Lake part, is a new generation. So it's a new node. It's a shrunk node. Rocket Lake was a backport to the non-shrunk node, to the 14 nanometer node. So it's going to be, obviously, right out the gate, it's going to be more energy efficient. It has to be if it's on a newer node, typically. I mean, let me rephrase. It doesn't have to be, but that is something to keep in mind. It does have a mildly slower turbo speed. 5 gigahertz versus 5.3 on Rocket Lake. So 14 nanometer still has the fastest turbo on the market right now. But being on a newer node and being a newer architecture, Ice Lake does have about a 5 to 10% faster IPC. So that 1 to 2%, clock speed enhancement, 3% clock speed enhancement really is not going to best a 5 gigahertz clock speed on Ice Lake. So, our Tiger Lake. Gosh, I got it. You're going to have to smack me around. I'm going to say that because we also talk about Ice Lake Xeons. Tiger Lake, the lakes kill me, man. There's so many lake names. It's hilarious. But I'm looking over at the page here. And so just doing that comparison, the rundown, you've got Intel rocking the both parts are 8-core 16 thread. They're both the same that way. Both have the same bus speeds. Both offer up to 128 gigs of DDR4 3200 megahertz RAM. Both are dual channel setups. Both have essentially Z graphics embedded. Both have 32 execution units of Z embedded. Both support the same amount of DirectX 12. Both support the same OpenCL specs. Oh, wow. That's another thing I noticed, and I'll bring it up later. Both have a max number of 20 PCI Express lanes. Both are PCI Express 4.0. So we can all recognize that. The platform, I will go ahead and tell you, the platform chipset PCI Express on both of them is still 3.0. So basically, if you've got a single slot card, you'll get a single slot X16 card, and then you can get a single PCI Express 4.0 M.2 drive in there. You're not going to get multiple M.2s unless you drop off the PCI Express 4.0 X16 for your GPU. Outside of that, I mean, everything else is pretty much the standard. They all support the same instruction set, so on and so forth. There are a couple of upgrades and a couple of things like that are a little bit different. But nothing from generational gap. Now, here's a couple of things that I definitely wanted to get into early on with this. And I mentioned, how it compares to Rocket Lake. So just going to max memory bandwidth alone kind of cracks me up. So they both support 128 gigabytes of RAM, but because it's a newer memory controller on a newer platform, you're going to end up with actually faster memory bandwidth on Tiger Lake H. So Tiger Lake H supports 51.2 gigabytes a second of max bandwidth, whereas Rocket Lake only gets 50 gigabytes a second. That's, not something that's a big difference, but certain applications that might make a difference. Now down to the nitty gritty of what I really wanted to talk about. So the big thing is Tiger Lake comes in with a whole new microarchitecture. It boosts the amount of cache per core. So L2 and L3 cache increases per core with Tiger Lake. It's got a little bit better latency coming out. Lots of improvements because you're going to Willow Cove. So you're on a new Willow Cove core. You're on the 10 nanometer super fin technology. So they finally refined their FinFET for 10 nanometer enough to get it into a full node and start transitioning everything to the full node. You're getting, 11th gen graphics, which are actually Z graphics, of course. They're the same between the two, but there are some differences, which we'll cover. So here's the thing that you don't find in the ARC page that I do have the information about in the product brief. It does support 44 total platform PCI Express lanes. So that means that the chipset does actually support 24 PCI Express 3.0 lanes for all your extra SSDs that you want to put in there. So for lack of a better word, your smart play in this is get a big bulky OS drive, put it on PCI Express 4.0, and then run RAID 0 essentially on a couple of spare drives in this, and you're going to have, running RAID 0, you're going to, with 2 or 3 extra drives, you're going to end up getting very close to the actual performance that you would want. It does support Optane memory H20, which is kind of starting to be faded out, but is still a thing. This was something that I noticed a second ago that was very interesting and different between the two. 11th gen graphics actually support 4 video outs, whereas 11th gen graphics on the Core 11900K only support 3 out. So I'm guessing that's 3 out with the laptop display, maybe, Chris. Which is pretty standard for laptops.
That would make sense.
That's pretty standard for laptops. And you're going to pair both of these are going to get paired to some kind of a GPU usually, especially if you're going for the Core i9 series. If you're not, it makes sense. Both of them supporting the higher bandwidth than 3200 megahertz is also nice. What I think is interesting though is going back to the core specs of it, the max turbo frequency, like I said, it is a little bit slower at 5 gigahertz versus 5.3, but you do get a nice little pickup and perk in the fact that you get 24 megs of L3 cache with Tiger Lake, whereas Rocket Lake only gets 16 megs. It's kind of shocking. It is what it is. The 125 watt TDP standard Rocket Lake Core i9 has a base clock of 3.5 gigahertz. Now, the 11980HK comes standard in a 45 watt package. At 45 watts, it's 2.6 gigahertz, guys. So that is obviously a slower base clock. It's a laptop chip. It's not designed to be a high base clock starter. However, it has a 65 watt TDP up configuration. At 65 watts, it's 3.3 gigahertz base clock with a 5 gigahertz boost still. All right. And that 5 gigahertz boost, I believe, is 2 cores, not 1. Because it's the Turbo 3.0. It's not the Velocity Boost core. It's the 3.0, which should be, so that should give you 2 cores at 5 gigahertz as opposed to 1 core at 5.3. It's not a big difference, it's not huge, but it will be interesting to see. Now, here's what's interesting. So I state that there's a 65 watt TDP up for the laptop that gets you to 3.3 gigahertz base. The 95 watt configuration of the 11900K, so that's TDP down, so you down clock it a little bit. The 95 watt configuration base clock is 3 gigahertz. So that should tell you that at 65 watts, your mobile part is officially better and more efficient with a higher IPC than the 95 watt Rocket Lake part. Obviously, 125 watts, it's going to beat it probably manageably by a little bit with this base clock that way. But that's still something to think about, guys. I mean, it is what it is. Now, here's the other thing that kind of threw me for a loop, and this is why there's a little subset talking about Z Tiger Lake being better than Rocket Lake Z. The base clock of both Z parts is going to be the same, right? They're both going to be 350 megahertz base clocks on the GPUs. However, the max dynamic frequency is 4.5 gigahertz on Tiger Lake. Or no, not 4.5, 1.45. Sorry, 1.45 gigahertz on Tiger Lake versus 1.3 gigahertz on Rocket Lake. So you get a whole different setup. Also, this is something that as I was looking at it, I did not even notice, but your max HDMI resolution, because you've been bumped up to HDMI 2.0B on the output for Tiger Lake, is 4096 by 2304 at 60 hertz, as opposed to 4096 by 2130 or 2160 at 60 hertz. So it's a little bit better than 4K. It also offers a max DisplayPort out of 8K, whereas Tiger Lake does not. Tiger Lake gets to 5K, but not to 8K.
Rocket Lake.
Or Rocket Lake, yes, that's right. Rocket Lake gets to 5K versus 8K over Tiger Lake. So Tiger Lake wins again there. And I'm just like, this is kind of interesting. Just a little unique. Yes, there are some other things that are better supported, obviously. There is one OpenGL difference. So the actual OpenGL support for Tiger Lake H is 4.6 as opposed to 4.5 for Rocket Lake. That probably is purely related to when they were released. One being released in March, officially released in March, one being officially released in May. That's probably the biggest difference. Just so everybody's kind of aware of that. It does appear that both of them, I do believe, both of them are starting out with 2.5 gigahertz Ethernet support direct off the chipset, or off the core, I should say, not off the chipset, which is nice. And then, see if there's anything else. There are some different things that you'll find in the brief that if you were to ever look at it. So it does have the mobile 500 series chipset, which is what we were talking about earlier, ups its PCI support and so on and so forth. I'm trying to look over some of these things in the brief just to kind of cover them. If anybody has any questions, feel free to ask. Like I said, I've got the product briefs. We both of us have the product briefs in front of us. Now, while I'm kind of going through this a little more and rolling through it, I did want to get you to kind of give us a little bit of a, and I know this seems funny, we're talking about this and Top Flight's kind of backing this all, and we're having a lovely discussion as the IT guys. These are laptop parts where you might see these in desktops, and we'll talk about this more later on, but NUCs. Intel makes their little next generation of next generation unit of computing, what the NUC stands for, NUC. Intel has their NUC line. There's also a bunch of like portable lines. You probably remember when they made those little 9980 HK units that were like mobile things that had other full GPU support on them, those kind of things. Those will be coming, and they will be basically, if I were a betting man, you're going to start seeing those things come in with the 65 watt parts, because really you're not going to see a 65 watt part in a laptop, guys. You're just not. That's too much power draw. Unless you see like those dual 250 watt power PSU machines of yesteryear, which usually are what they put in place to run like a full desktop chip in a laptop. I don't think you're going to see that this generation, but you may see the 65 watt up parts configured in a lot of these NUC type settings. And that really, I mean, with these things configured with 128 gigs of RAM, are really going to be powerhouses. I don't think a lot of people understand how nice that's going to be for a lot of people. Z is getting better, obviously. Next generation Z will probably even better, which is, something to get excited about. But that brings us to something that you probably will start seeing more coming out of folks here pretty soon, and that is Ice Lake. Ice Lake Xeon finally launches. It launched kind of alongside of some other stuff in March, but if you want to kind of walk us through a little bit more of the Ice Lake stuff, Chris, that would be awesome.
So Ice Lake is the 3rd gen Intel Xeon scalable chip. It has up to 40 cores in certain socket configurations. It's optimized, so it ranges from 8 to 40 cores, optimized for cloud, enterprise, HPC, network security, and IoT. This is just straight up off the brief. It integrates a new security feature on the memory that we're gonna go over. Lots of new product models available. And you still have your Xeon Platinum, Xeon Gold, and Xeon Silver levels. Lots of gains over the last gen.
Yeah, I do kind of want to cover this too. So Ice Lake is not super thin, just so everybody is aware of that. If you're looking at the products, Ice Lake Xeons are on just the regular 10 nanometer, the first gen 10 nanometer, if you wanted to call it that. There's the 8380 normal. I want to find that one so I can actually pull the product specs on it directly. There it is. So yeah, it's not manufactured. It's basically on 10 nanometer plus, whereas technically 10 nanometer plus is super thin, which is what Tiger Lake's manufactured on. And so you're gonna have some differences there, guys. Ice Lake is obviously not gonna turbo up near as high as Tiger Lake, especially Tiger Lake H. One of the Intel's things with their architectures is that 14 nanometer was really truly like over time. It took time to develop them out and build out what they had. And so one of the things that they had to do to get there was they had to basically go and cut clock speed as they got higher and higher in build. And so like the 8380, which is, you have to be careful when you look at SKUs and you're ordering stuff too. The 8380 is not the same as the 8380H. The 8380H is actually still the old 14 nanometer Cooper Lake refresh, if you want to call it that. Cascade Lake and Cooper Lake were the last gen 14 nanometer stuff. And Cooper Lake really became the 3rd gen, and it was released in the latter part of last year as an upgrade, knowing that Ice Lake was coming, but it provides some of the, so Cooper Lake, alongside of the 3rd gen Xeon scalable Ice Lake setups, gives you a total higher density per device. And what I mean by that is it gives you, let me try to give the best explanation. So you can get an 8-socket 3rd gen Xeon scalable with an 8380H, which is the Cooper Lake part. And that part goes up to 224 cores in a single platform. Now, according to the product spec on the ARC page, there are 3 QPI links within Tiger Lake, or within Ice Lake. And unfortunately, it does. I didn't read this earlier when we were talking about it, but I did read it now. Its scalability options are only 2S, so it's only a dual socket configuration for Ice Lake. Now, let me do something else. So I want to close those comparisons out and go to another comparison setup. I want to compare an 8380 to an 8380H. And I think what I'm going to find is something that you'll probably know too. Do that one, compare those two. I'm betting they have a different number of PCI lanes available. That's what I thought. They do. So the 8380H, which is the Cooper Lake part, it doesn't support near as much RAM. First and foremost, it's only six memory channels as opposed to 8. Cooper Lake did get you up to 3200 megahertz RDIMM capabilities, which is fine. Cascade Lake gives you, or not Cascade Lake, Ice Lake gives you the same 3200 megahertz RDIMM, but the memory support is a huge difference. So on that 8-socket machine, you'll get a max support of basically 9 terabytes of memory on an 8380. 8380H. The 8380HL, however, is the larger socket, larger RAM support. I think they support up to 3 terabytes of chip. That 8-socket will get up to, on an 8380HL, would probably get up to 369. Damn, you're fine. That's a great song. No, but it'll get up to 3, 6, 9, 12, 24 terabytes of memory support. However, Ice Lake Xeons and the 8380, they support 6 terabytes of memory in a single socket setup. So you could support essentially 128, or not 128, 12 terabytes of memory with 2 CPUs for memory intensive workloads. That's a big difference. Also, the Cooper Lake only has 48 lanes on the socket or on the actual chip, whereas Ice Lake supports 64 lanes. So another increase that people are sometimes going to miss. Intel added a lot of extensions too with 3rd gen, and we could talk about those at a later time. If somebody wants to ask about them, we'll gladly talk about them. You want to kind of go over SGX? You got that page up?
Sure. Let me find that real quick. What the heck is that?
It should, if you're looking at the product brief, it should be page 3. There's a link to get the actual SGX page.
Okay. So bear with me. Intel Software Guard extension, or Intel SGX, provides fine-grained data protection via application isolation in memory, independent of OS or hardware configuration. So it's data protection in memory that's outside of Windows or Ubuntu or whatever, or the hardware configuration. Which is nice, which is really good for application security, for data security. It's what it says. And there are different levels between the chip SKUs as to how much space each chip can give you for the SGX level. Some chips have 8 gigs in the enclave. Some chips have 24. I think they go up to 512 gig. And I don't remember where that was on the product brief. I saw that on a website somewhere else. Supporting up to, okay, with standard SKUs supporting up to 64 gig enclave per processor. That's on the golds. The platinums support up to 512 gig per processor. Yep. And the silvers have 8.
So and one of the pages that we found, if you want to link it to it, it's the Anantech page.
I got it.
The second page there. For the kind of specs of Ice Lake Xeon only. These are great ways to go through and see all the stuff. It's still, gold is pretty much going to be the standard for builds that you want to do. What I will say is very nice though is generation over generation, we got a major price drop here, guys. I know when I say a major price drop, that seems silly to think about, but for instance, the Platinum 8380 is $2,000 per socket cheaper than the 8380, 8280s, I should say, which were $10,000 a socket. Now I know that seems like $2,000, $8,000 versus $10,000. It's not a big saving. Okay, when you're buying a bunch of these machines,
it adds up.
And you're building a bunch of these machines, $2,000 will add up very quickly. I mean, just in that savings alone, you can almost justify buying an A6000.
Almost.
Almost.
Or
right
or you can actually buy the A5000.
Yeah, or two. That's something that you've got to think about. Like with the A5000s out now, and we will talk about that a little bit here as we talk about the new products and stuff that are coming out too from some of these products. That's going to be something huge. And I kind of want to cover this too while we're talking about the Ice Lake Xeons, is that Ice Lake Xeons it's the next step. It's proof that Intel can actually manufacture on their 10 nanometer node, something that they weren't able to do before. So keep that in mind, guys. Like this is a big deal. Like you getting proof of this concept is something it's something most people probably weren't thinking about. And I did have a conversation for about 25, 30 minutes yesterday with Intel to kind of get a little bit more information about what these things were doing and where they're going with them. You should start seeing these machines. Tiger Lake should be shipping sometime this month. Ice Lake actually should be shipping. You should see mass shipping of Ice Lake by mid-June, probably. And it may be a little bit later than that, guys. Let's be honest. It's still, got to get there, got to get them out, got to move forward, so on and so forth. So we're not 100% there, but expect it to be coming pretty soon, fast and furious, that this stuff's going to start making it into the hands of customers, and getting these things into the hand of customers is what you want. That's going to take me to my next favorite topic for just a minute. And we'll come back to these things a lot too. So, because they all kind of tie into each other. We will go ahead and I'll go ahead and bring it up before we really get into the actual LHR stuff from Nvidia. But this month is the month that A5 and A4000 start making it and start shipping. 4000 should start coming out and being available to people here later on in the month. A5000 sometime soon. What I understand, it should be, in the next week or two, you should start seeing boards with the A5000 in them. Also, those Tiger Lake H products, like I said, the whole reason I even stumbled upon them was Tiger Lake H is coming with the next generation Ampere laptop chips. And I do kind of want to cover the differences, because the laptop chips do kind of take a step back. This may be the first generation I look at things and say, well, if you can find the 3080 laptop part, buy that. If you can find a 10980HK with a 3080, buy that, because the 10980HK with the 3080 is going to have the same amount. It's going to basically be the same part as an A5000. Now, if you need the A5000 stuff, buy the A5000. If you need the upgraded stuff applied to it, you're going to want to buy the A5000 in a mobile part. But they're going to have for the first time in a lot of generations, the A5000 and the 3080, the 80 series GPU inside of a laptop are going to have basically the exact same specs, which is a very different approach. Obviously, the enterprise grade parts usually are more expensive, and that's because they have better driver support. That's just a true statement. The driver support will always be better, but usually you're buying the professional cards for more memory a lot of times. And so if the 3080 is going to have the same amount of memory, I'm not going to sit back here and lie to you and say from a workstation you need the A5000. If all you're doing is generic SolidWorks or CAD work, you know, and you're looking for a high-speed CAD or something like that, that's where your 3080 is going to make sense. Now, if you're getting into rendering or into always uptime issues where you need your laptop running 24/7 because you're constantly running a rendering on it, that's where your enterprise RTX will come in handy. But all that comes along the lines of Nvidia announcing that they're also going to be basically starting in the end of this month, new 3080s, 3070s, 3060 Ti's, just like the 3060, will have LHR attached to them. So they'll have a light hash rate for Ethereum. I understand there's other products out there that you can mine for with these cards, but Ethereum's the one everybody's using. That's the most profitable right now. Alongside the announcement that Ethereum is going to be moving from proof of work to proof of stake, by the end of this year, you could see Ethereum making some major changes that might start allowing us to see GPU prices starting to come back down and or a flood of GPUs to the third-party market. We got to get there. Got to get there. But yeah, it's definitely a potential. And these light hash rate things, I mean, they're going to be good for gamers. We've yet to see. So this is where I have to, you know, put my seal of or stamp of don't buy it until you know what it does. We've yet to see how the light hash rate performance affects professional products. And see, this could be the beginning of something, guys. This could be the beginning of light hash rate type GPUs, or I don't want to call them crippled. They're not, but performance disabled in driver settings or in hardware settings, performance disabled CPUs and GPUs that basically make the professional lines much more viable. Because if you buy a bunch of these professional lines, usually, and that's what you should be looking for in workstations anyways, guys. Keep that in mind. Workstations are always going to be a go for the professional line. I mean, professional line. Quadro.
Nice flex.
Titan. It's not a flex. That's the funny thing. It's not a. I do it, and I don't try to flex when I do it. Like, it's weird. I have all of these old GPUs, and people see them on display, and they're like, "You could do that in mine with them." Yeah, I could, but why? Like, I'm not, like, mining is not what I want to do. Like, I don't want to waste all of my electricity. I'm already burning a bunch of electricity just working with my stuff. And I don't know about you guys, but like, that's like, they're work parts. They are definitely work parts. A little bit. You still looking out the window? Yep. Occasionally, since I don't use the blurred background, occasionally you guys may get to see the actual the puppy inclusion. I like using an actual real background sometimes though. So, you know, covering these things. So some of the new products. All right. Well, let me get back to the LHR stuff and finish this. So what it is they're basically taking and creating a hash rate limiter. It's not a hardware hash rate limiter. So somebody out there may find a way to break it. I mean, Nvidia broke their own one for the 3060 originally by pushing some kind of driver or something out. I mean, that happened. It's a driver-based cripple. And so that means that they could implement that thing in the future. Just keep in mind, this is a way that Nvidia could find a way to implement something to enhance their revenue and cripple a software. You know, maybe they make it so you can't run as well on a 3080 or a 3090 in DaVinci. They could start finding ways to get to cripple out their software competition. If they're doing it just for miners, just keep in mind, if people start buying nothing but 3090s and don't buy their professional line, they'll start doing this. This is a company's way of saying, hey, we build these GPUs to sell to gamers, and gamers deserve to get their GPUs. You don't need to be buying a bunch of 3090s to build a render farm. Go buy the RTX A products or whatever the next gen will be after this. Maybe the RTX B products. I don't know. So some of the things that to bring up, as I mentioned, so you're going to see a Dell product that's coming out. I don't know if it's out yet, so I'm gonna go check again. Nope, let me go look, see what they got. I want to see what they got here. Have they released the new stuff? They have not launched the newest products yet. So they were supposed to launch already, but we'll see. We're waiting. We're still waiting on the H series chips to make it to the stream and make it to everything. But the 11th gen chips are going to come from. So you could look for Dell, Lenovo, HP, all of those manufacturers to be launching a new product very soon that's going to come with both the RTX A5000, 4000, 3000. I think there's an A2000 too in mobile. But those products are all going to come here in the next few weeks. Dell will do it, HP, Lenovo, Box will probably be doing them too. These are laptops only. And they're going to be beasts. These, you're also going to see, because this is the H series, these 11th gen H series will make their way to like the Alienwares and to the other Dell lineups and the other HP and the gaming lineups that are out there. So keep your eyes peeled for those as well, because those are going to come with the 30 series graphics cards that are perfectly suited to do some of this work. And the IPC increases on Tiger Lake really do put this performance of these new products in a line where they actually may be far nicer. So let me pull up the actual product specs for all of them. H.
Oh, bot.
Dell.
And got it. Handle.
So here we go. Where are the actual? So they've launched them. I'm trying to see if I can. Oh, here we go. So you're going to have. Now, this doesn't include the Xeon versions of them. Now, they do have Xeon versions of them that are coming, so keep that in mind. Oh my goodness. I did not notice this before, but yeah. Do Tiger Lake H Anantech, Chris, to put that on there. People need to see that because there's the actual consumer parts, and it tells you all the actual
like
turbos like we were looking at before.
Yep.
Yeah, that's better than what I was thinking.
Tiger Lake H. Right up.
So this is going to amaze some people. So here's the thing. And we're kind of back to the beginning of it, but we're going to talk about it. So I'm just going to have to say it. Tiger Lake H. The 4-core turbo for the HK is 4.9 gigahertz, Chris. Half the CPU can turbo up to 4.9 gigahertz.
Snap. Holy cow.
The all-core turbo is 4.5 gigahertz.
Yeah.
This thing, if you don't see Nux with
For a
this
laptop.
if you don't see Nux with this in the next 6 months beating desktops outright, I'm going to be amazed. Like, that is unbelievable. I mean, the 2-core turbo speed is 5 gigahertz. And keep in mind, the HK is unlocked. You can actually overclock this sucker. Hide and watch somebody with a NUC go and overclock this thing with good cooling, and make a mobile part 10 times better than the damn desktop part. Like, guys, really, Intel, why did you launch Rocket Lake? I'm still asking that question to myself.
Hence podcast episode.
I mean, and here's the funnier part to me. So you've got the i7 11800H. All right, the 11800H is an 8-core, 16-core thread part that boosts 2 cores up to 4.6 gigahertz. All right, that's not super special, but it's still got the full Z graphics. And I guarantee you, if the I can find what the price is, what the spec price is, because I did that before. I was comparing them all. Let me go back up here. I got to go look at the processors, core. I have to go select them one at a time because because they're spread out that way. So the HK 11988. Oh my God, they already have an 1150H, an 11950H. So I want that and want that. And then I got to go back because I don't need the 11900. Well, you know what? I think I compare. Oh, no, I'm going to go back. Go back. And then I want 11th gen i7. 11.7, 11. Oh, they've got an 11850H too. Holy crap! Yeah, AnandTech's missing some stuff from theirs.
Oops.
Yeah, AnandTech is missing something that's going to actually make a real difference too. So, oh God. We talked about the now this don't make no sense. Intel, you're gonna have to explain. Intel, you got some explaining to do here. Because your recommended customer prices don't make a lick of sense right now. Your 11980HK is cheaper than your 11700 or your 11800H. That's just got to be wrong. I'm betting that it's not 583. I'm betting it's 383 because it's got to be cheaper than the 11850. And that the 11850H can't be the same as the 11950H at $395. So
somebody made a boo-boo.
Somebody made a boo-boo on the Intel page. But basically, all of these are 8-core, 16-thread parts. The 11950H is basically the 11980HK, but with no TDP up frequency. So it's 2.6 45 watt, just like it's basically the 11980HK, but in a 45 watt only TDP for right now, according to this page, $100, $150 cheaper. I don't think that's true. I think it's probably just maybe $50 to $100 cheaper, and that's fine. Once again, these are all brand new products, but this is Intel's official product spec. So, I mean, call it what you want to call it, guys. This is Intel talking here. And you can find all this stuff once again through the ARC page. The 950H only has a TDP down, so you can down clock it or down power it, but not up power it like you can the what do you call it? The 11980HK. The max turbos are so the i7 11850H is 4.8 gigahertz 2-core boost. So going back to that AnandTech article, they're missing that. They've got the 11800H, but they don't have the 11850H. The 11800 has a 4.62 core boost and a 4.5 all-core turbo. So I'm imagining if you just bump the other one up too, you're probably going to have a 4-core turbo of 4. 7. I mean, once again, all these numbers are great for these processors. Like these are, as long as the power is available and they can be thermally cooled, these things are going to be smoking fast. Yeah, even the i7s are probably going to be compatible. This is unbelievable, guys. I mean, like, I really sit here and speaking like straight from reading. Like, why was Rocket Lake released? I don't know. But as we kind of progress, like we try to, these are the new products, though. You're going to have the 11900, the 11980HK. They have an 11950H. This is just, I mean, I don't know what to say, guys. Like it's kind of hard to comprehend all of these things right now. Ice Lake is really prepping me and making me feel like Alder Lake is going to be something very interesting to look at next fall. And I, we're not talking leaks here. We're just talking about like personal opinions here and personal, reading in between the lines, if you want to call it that. And Ice Lake and Tiger Lake are telling me that Intel is on the way to really making some headwinds. There's going to be some new products coming out in the next 12 to 18 months. They're going to blow all of our minds. For everybody watching and that does see this or sees this on the YouTube page, I mean, these are all major upgrades for Intel in the mobile and 8-core part realm. Intel still doesn't have anything right now that's really going to compete with Threadripper. They're trying to compete with server and consumer right now. The next step up, if you go kind of research into where they're going, they do have a Cascade Lake is the last thing you can get, the 10980XE on Intel's platform for the X299. The next thing I think you're going to see is they're going to kind of come out with something this fall, probably maybe, or maybe next year on the HEDTC side to maybe try to compete with AMD. But AMD just is hands down, they've kind of stepped it up. They put the strapping on for our lovely friends. So, Intel's had to play catch up, and they have. They got lazy back in the, mid 2010s and thought no one would need more than 4 cores and 8 threads. And now they're playing the 8-core, 8-thread game, which if you look at what AMD has to compete with it. So let's do some side-by-side comparisons here. And actually, I think AnandTech kind of does some.
Yeah, they had some comparing the 4900HS or whatever it's called. Let's see, rendering.
So they
Yeah,
got they have the 5980 HS too. So
yeah.
So their single core performance has the 11980 HK in 45 watt mode. Keep that in mind because AMD's Ryzen HS is in 35 watt mode only. But it's beating it single core in just about everything or competing right alongside of it. And people tend to forget TSMC 7 nanometer is comparable to Ice Lake or to Intel 10 nanometer in terms of transistor density. When you forget that transistor density is 5 nanometer or is not nanometer based, it's based on what the actual architecture roadmaps to. So Intel's 10 nanometer is actually the same as TSMC's 7. Now, as Intel drops more and more, if they can't keep up with getting to 7 nanometer and 5 nanometer and so on and so forth, they're going to stay nodes behind AMD again. But right now, you can clearly see that Intel is playing catch up and doing a good job. Now, let me look at that was single thread performance. Let's see multi-thread. Let's see if there's any real big pickups here. Intel trades blows with these things, with the HS. 5980 HS. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's pretty good. And that keeps in mind that they have it's a 45 watt configurable up to an 85 watt. And you also have to wonder, was the cooling solutions, how did they go for everything? You just don't know. Also, I'm sitting here trying to understand how in one of the higher is better thread count, CPU thread count, multi-thread runs, a 4-core Intel part destroyed everybody. That makes no sense. But it is what it is.
Oh yeah, I see this 1185 G7 that's just running away with it.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Yep.
What that? It should lose.
That's correct. And like I said, you can see, like, looking at it all, like Intel is they're playing the game. They're doing what they can do, and apparently the 10900K, which is funny when they compare 10900K and it wins in certain things. Well, it's because it's got 2 extra cores, guys. I mean, come on here. You got that you should understand that by now. Like a 10900K has 10 cores, and if you compare it to an 8-core part, that's not gonna win. It's gonna be this doesn't surprise me. 45 watt parts, and 45 watt parts should beat 35 watt parts to a degree. I mean, that's the way the world works. I mean, but when you've got a 45 watt part comparing it to a 65 watt part, that's a non-Intel, it's a Ryzen 5600X. Now the 5600X is 6-core 12 thread, but it's 65 watts, so it turbos and runs a lot higher and faster the entire time. That,
as we all know,
that it's the fact that it's holding, and keep in mind, as I said, in order to hold turbos faster and higher, you have to clock. You have to have the cooling solutions. You don't have those cooling solutions. Obviously, it looks to me like the the Intel reference kits don't quite have the greatest cooling solution on them, or maybe their thermal solutions are down turboing them faster or something like that. I don't like using a reference kit. Like, give me a precision, or give me a Dell and compare Dell to a Dell, because Dell's going to use the same type of cooling solutions. Give me something that's really able to compare these.
Yeah, we have no idea what the 5600X is being used to cool on. Like, it could be using like a big water cooler for all we know.
Well, but when you think about it in terms of laptops, man, that's the other thing people tend to forget. You got to think about, these are all laptop parts. So
Right.
Comparing a laptop part to a desktop chip, really, even if it is a 6-core, even if it is a 6-core 12 thread, it's not a fair comparison.
No,
because the architectures are different. So AMD's laptop parts are all monolithic too. So that's really where you want to compare the two. You don't want to go into the chiplet design, because sometimes you'll find areas where, like, holy crap, how did Intel win? Well, there's a issue there. And once again, we're looking at benchmarks, guys. And as I've told you before, we'll talk about them all day long. But I'm going to try to get my hands on some of these things, and I'm going to put them through some real world tests. And then maybe one of these episodes, we'll just have okay, here's these two things side by side. I'll stream them in, and you can watch them do the stuff side by side and see, or I'll pull times myself, because that's the thing. Benchmarks are not the way to buy a computer anymore. A benchmark, just like, especially a workstation, like, you need to know. I go back to my original argument that I made last week when we first started this podcast as to why I wanted to start this podcast and get it with Chris. Benchmarks don't tell you the picture. They never have, and they never will. Benchmarks are only going to give you a closed off view of what's going on and how it's going. They are designed for they're synthetic loads. They're synthetic information, and they're sometimes designed to be utilized a certain way. And so companies can design their chipsets around, hey, we want to win these benchmarks. They can design their chips around, we want to win these benchmarks. And they may be great in benchmarks, and in certain aspects of software, they may be great, but they're not going to win hands down side by side another part. That's just kind of how it goes. I think I've kind of rambled enough in that kind of side thing.
Yeah.
But like, going back to our whole workstation conversation, the whole reason we're here. So where does this make sense? You know, Top Flight kind of has the sponsor for all this stuff. So maybe one day Chris will have nothing but laptops to sell to everybody, and I love that, obviously.
That'd be cool.
But the laptops they're mobile. They're designed to be mobile. So if you're buying a laptop, understand that. Now, you're not going to buy these things to be a rendering powerhouse. You're just not. And Ice Lake is not quite caught up to the power and performance of Epic and then Threadripper. And you're probably not going to be able to buy an Ice Lake machine that's going to compete with Threadripper. I mean, you might be able to later this year. Dell has been known to put them in there, and they are coming out with boards that hopefully Chris can get a hold of pretty soon to put some Ice Lake Xeons in and actually, build some of these machines out. Ice Lake's going to be nice. It's still got AVX 512, which AMD has not yet implemented. And so if you have AVX 512 type stuff, that's great. Oh my God. I just read this and didn't think about it. You know the link in the third gen Xeon product brief for SGX?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Did you read what was right below that? It's going to make you laugh.
Don't remember. One sec. So page 3 of the Ice Lake?
Yep.
All right. Intel RTT or AVX 512.
Right below the SGX thing.
Crypto acceleration. What does that mean?
I'm trying to find more out myself. The link doesn't go anywhere.
Is a dead link. Newsroom.intel.com is dead. / crypto is dead.
Okay, I had to get to it, but it's a roundabout way. It doesn't talk about the actual thing. It talks about this says you have to go to it's an old thing. I just searched Intel crypto acceleration. Yeah, basically they're using 512, AVX 512 on Ice Lake for cryptocurrency mining. You've got to be kidding me. Ice Lake is getting specific hardware acceleration for cryptocurrency mining.
What?
Unbelievable.
What? That doesn't make much sense.
Right?
What? Why would you buy an Ice Lake to mine crypto?
Oh no. It's not that. So there are CPU crypto acceleration. There is CPU crypto mining that occurs.
Sure.
It just so happens that CPU crypto mining is not as, it's typically, I think, and I'd have to look into it, it's not used in proof of work. I'd have to find out what form it's used in.
Wouldn't be stake, because that's how much you own.
Now, proof of stake does technically include proof of work too, though. It's not completely free of proof of work.
Interesting.
Who knows? I'm trying to read into it and see, guys, but I'm not seeing it. Transport layer security. It's just, yeah, well, this is talking more. It is what it is. It's an enhanced crypto algorithm that runs on there. It's some kind of cryptographic algorithm. Reading into it, it sounds like it's more for encryption stuff, but crypto is not encryption. We'll have to see. I'll have to get into the IDF and find out more.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, that's intriguing. But to kind of take a minute and go back and briefly cover it all again. So we're talking about Ice Lake Xeon's got up to 40 cores, 8-channel memory, 3200 megahertz. It's some of them have that SGX technology to where you can like actually encrypt and run software in private nodes of memory up to 512 gig memory. So basically you can restrict your app to only running in a 512 memory enclave for security purposes. You can do the same thing with the gold series. It's just the amount they strip it down to. That's a boring thing to talk about. They have faster latency when tied to the Optane SSDs, or lower latency, I should say. 32% higher memory bandwidth over the prior gen, 6 terabytes of memory per socket versus the old socket. They are 16% lower power. Now, you say that, we say that, but yet when we talked about the Ice Lake Xeons, they go up to 270 watt TDP for 40 cores. Now, your generic 32s are going to be somewhere in the range of 185 to 250 if you want the high clock speed ones. Most of these max turbos are going to be, well, they've got the 8368 gets up to 3.7 gigahertz. That's the peak. All right. The generic, that's your max turbo frequency on a 38 core part at 270 watts. The highest base clock frequencies I'm finding, you can go down to some of the lower core count parts in the gold series and get up to 3 gigahertz, start out 30. Oh, holy cow, the 63, but that's only an 8 core part. Yeah, so they've got an 8 core part that has a 3.6 gigahertz base and a 3.7 gigahertz boost. Granted, it is only a 8 core part. So why buy an 8 core part? But that gets back to Ice Lake. Ice Lake not being as a efficient node on the regular 10 nanometer non-super fin. That's why that's the way it is. So just understand that. I don't think most people coming here and listening to this podcast are going to be buying the 40 core part. Most of you are probably going to be similar to me, searching in the 32 core to, the 24 to 32 core parts. Those are all, once again, the pricing for everything has fallen so much for Xeon to be competitive. Xeons are going to start offering, 100 gigabit NICs associated with them, which is going to be huge. The Intel's got the new 800 series adapters coming out. That's part of these new products in the second half. I mean, you expect higher bandwidth machines to be a big thing, guys. Enhanced, and that's the thing. It's funny to think about, but AVX 512 has found its way into so many processing workflows these days. Because AVX 512 is just an advanced vectorization network of processing. That's a 512-bit wide network as opposed to AVX1 and AVX2. That's why there are still cases today where Intel lower core count processors can improve and be better than 16, 32, 24 core, 64 core AMD processors is because AMD doesn't support AVX 512. And Intel it was their, instruction set. So they kind of advanced it a lot in 10 years. And once it finally makes it over to AMD is just going to have to constantly play update on adding those instruction sets to their CPUs to really get advantage of them. But you're going to see these things, coming into play pretty soon. They've got their AI systems, which AI is a big thing these days. So AVX 512 has a lot of AI enhanced workloads. And that's a big thing. Really and truthfully, though, if you're doing AI workloads on AMD, you're probably doing it on the GPU. And so that's where, Nvidia and AMD GPUs are going to come into play. And hopefully AMD will start bringing us some new professional GPUs pretty soon too. We're kind of waiting on those, waiting and seeing. And I don't know when they'll be out, but usually it's not too long behind the actual launch. But obviously, with the global supply issues of everything, we're just kind of waiting on, RX 69 6000 series workloads for professional to see what they come out with there. Yeah, there's just a lot that's coming right now, guys. Usually the time to start looking into things is the middle of the year and the end of the year. That's when all the good stuff starts to release from an enterprise workload. They might announce stuff at the beginning of the year like they always do, but it's usually never between them. It's the middle and the end of the year when you start getting stuff. Virtual desktop stuff is going to start coming out. That is what one of the SKUs is, by the way. The V SKUs are optimized for VM environments, in case you didn't know that. I only notice one V SKU though, and it's a 36 core. Y SKUs are performance profile, so their Y SKUs are going to be slightly more, I guess, better turbos. Maybe. I'm just trying to look and see. P SKUs are high frequency VM. So they do have a lot. They do have a few P SKUs. Oh, no. They only have one P SKU. Wow. I talk about these SKUs, but there's not a lot. I mean, Ice Lake, like I said, Ice Lake is a stopgap for Intel right now. They've got to get over to the other stuff. Oh, okay. Intel's Q SKU is liquid cooled for higher performance. That's the one that has the 37 gigahertz max turbo. So 8 DDR4 memory channels, 64 lanes per socket for higher I/O. I'm wanting to see if I can find out where the actual thing is. Well, there's the direct comparison to processor SKUs. Okay, go down. And then I'm trying to see if there's something that talks about the actual. I want to see if I can find. Here's the chipset. Okay. So we do have a new chipset, by the way. And it is the C621, C627, and C629A. They're all A's after them. C621, C627, C629A. That's the new chipsets that are out. Okay, yeah, they all add a PCI uplink. I want to go look. I'm actually going to go look at the chipset too, real quick. So go back. Chipsets, not processors. I want to go chipsets, server chipsets, C620. I see. I want to see the C629. That's probably just going to be C629 to run with it. Those are the new ones. C629 is Lewisburg. What is the socket it goes for, though? Go back. 629A. Yeah, it's all Lewisburg. So yeah, that's what it is. They all support 20 additional PCI Express lanes. They are, once again, Gen 3. So the chipset is still Gen 3, guys. Now, Ice Lake is Gen 4 PCI, so 64 PCI Express 4.0 lanes. But your actual C629 is not going to be, it's not going to give you but 20 PCI Express Gen 3 lanes. Yep. And it's going to allow you to do a couple of, it'll give you a couple of actual things. And I think that's kind of something that we're going to see for a little while. Next gen, you might see PCI Express 4.0 on the 5.0 car, on the 5.0 gen stuff. So that'll change. We'll get there. We'll have to get there at some point, I'm sure, guys. It is Lewisburg is the actual chipset lineup. But I think we've talked about that enough till we're blue in the face. So we don't have any lovely questions tonight, and that's okay. I will leave this open, so if you guys leave comments on the YouTube video here at the end of it, we'll try to take a look at it and incorporate them into our next episode. The plan for the next episode is going to be for the 4th of June right now. That's 2 weeks away. So keep your calendars open for that lovely, lovely time, guys. We don't want to keep you too late. We don't want to keep ourselves too late. Look forward to seeing these new products come out. Look forward to Chris building some things with these new products pretty soon too. So keep your eyes peeled for when he starts throwing those up on the Top Flight streams. And you guys end up having any questions or something, like I said, feel free to email us or leave questions on our Discord. Do we have our Discord link in the chat?
I will put it in the chat.
If it'll go there, we'd love to have you guys. I don't know if that link will work, by the way. I don't know if it still runs. If not, we can put a new one up there.
Let's see. Boom. Invalid.
Yeah. Of course. Here, I'll put one in that document. I'll put a new one in there real quick. Hang on.
Okay.
Check that. Copy. There's the new one. Put that one up. It'll be good for 7 days, guys. So feel free to join us and get involved in the Discord and ask questions. Love to have more of you invited and on board with us on Discord. Ask for stuff. We got a couple of channels there. Just jump in, talk, and have a good conversation. There we go. But I don't know about you, Chris. You got any closing thoughts?
No, that was a really good podcast. I think we covered a whole lot. I am good.
Well, I will look forward to talking to everybody as well again. Look forward to seeing everybody, and hopefully everybody gets to watch this on YouTube and has a good time. So we will see y'all soon.
Bye.